Since the open beta, I've been enjoying Battlefield 6, and while I do think it's one of the best Battlefield games we've had, it has some glaring issues. Fortunately, most of these can be addressed over a short period of time. Since I'm releasing this video around Thanksgiving, I want to get into that Thanksgiving spirit and say thanks to Vincent Pilla and team for their hard work on Battlefield 6. I also want to thank Florian for talking with the community on Twitter and letting us know what changes we can expect by the next patch. While the game does have its issues, it's nice to see Battlefield be giving a new leash on life and find ways to preserve the feel of Battlefield and hopefully expand on that to better represent all of the strengths that this franchise is known for having. I know it can be annoying to see your favorite game be dissected and torn down over and over. Whenever I make a video like this, it's to shine a light on what the game needs to improve on so it can be even better. Otherwise, we can end up with a large part of the player base leaving the game over time. Or like in the case of Call of Duty, trying to make the game as casual friendly as possible, to the point that most people stop playing after 5 matches, and others find ways to exploit the game in one way or another, whether that's only using meta weapons to taking down their own stats, using VPNs or other tools to manipulate matchmaking, and so on. COD fatigue is very real because it's been made clear we're not going to see proper attempts to make the game's foundation any better. We're still going to have bad quality servers and netcode, slow rolling metas, cranked aim assist, and other smaller issues we've been dealing with year after year. It's only now with Black Ops 7 that they're trying to improve the experience. People are fed up with it and need a break from the constant lies and half-hearted attempts that we've seen for the past 5 years. While I would love to give props to Activision and Treyarch for trying to turn the tide, I can't really be grateful. These things should have been added and addressed as far back as the Cold War game back in 2020. With all our complaints laying on deaf ears for the past 5 years. Did I mention they've neglected the community for the past 5 years? The last thing I want to see is Battlefield follow in the same footsteps. This is why you may see your favorite creators bash certain parts of Battlefield 6, and they're doing it early. Not just because they played previous Battlefield games that did certain things better than Battlefield 6, but also, hopefully, to prevent Battlefield from neglecting its core audience and abandoning key features and intangibles that sets Battlefield apart from any other game in the market. And if you feel the same, help me out by liking this video and consider subscribing to this channel for more gaming discussions and Battlefield gameplay. The good news is, we're seeing a lot of transparency and constant updates to the game. The bad news, some damage is already done and may be up to the community through portal mode to try and recapture certain elements such as the rush game mode. I tried a few matches of rush recently to get a quick challenge done, and that felt like torture. Let's go through 3 things that Battlefield 6 needs to improve on sooner rather than later. Starting off with what is no doubt the most neglected part of the Battlefield community, that being vehicle combat. It's no secret, if you play this game for a short period of time, you'll notice how infantry-centered this game is, giving the engineer class more rockets to spawn with, and how much damage anti-vehicles weapons deal. It can be oppressive trying to use a tank or a chopper, when really it should be the other way around. While some of this can be remedied with lowering anti-vehicle weapon damage, providing more health to vehicles, giving vehicles more countermeasures and movement speeds, it doesn't fully solve the problem. I've seen tanks being blown up in T-2 seconds, and I've seen tanks roam around without a care in the world, going on an endless kill streak with 0 enemy engineers to be found. I've also seen tanks just sit back and lob threes from a far off distance so they can't get blown up. There may be some differences with vehicle combat here and there, but if the team decides they want an enemy vehicle gone, there's not really much that vehicle can do. We'll get into more information about that with the second point. The maps have been kind of a mixed bag, which is sadly a good thing overall. The previous game, Battlefield 2042, had horrible map design, which I've covered on this channel before. Those maps may play better now than at launch, but I never went back to them. Even going back to Battlefield 4, the launch maps weren't all that great. I would avoid Goldmud Railway like the plague, but I would love jumping into Zavod. In Battlefield 6, a lot of these maps are not only on the smaller side of the scale compared to other Battlefield games, but they're also more condensed, which can really close off infantry from vehicles in a lot of locations. And when a tank does roll in, it gets deleted near instantly. Then we get a quote-unquote large map with Blackwell fields, but that map suffers from the same map design flaws as 2042. Large, open, and empty spaces, limited cover, with a few hills overlooking each objective. While that map may be great for vehicles, it also puts infantry in a bad spot. Unless you're playing Engineer or Recon, you are mostly useless in that map for game modes like Conquest, Escalation, or Breakthrough. Of course, the support class is always somewhat feasible, but you're limited to being an ammo and health dispenser for most of the match. The smaller modes still work better, but that's because they use the one or two areas in the map that are actually playable for infantry. Eastwood, the other Season 1 map, is more enjoyable, but it also isn't what I expected. When I saw images for this map, it looked like it was going to be a suburban jungle, going around neighborhoods and clearing out houses. While you can find some of that here, it's limited to one corner of the map. The middle area is a golf resort with 3 small buildings that have limited rooftop access points. There are a few areas where it looks like I should be able to vault over and reach the roof, only to end up jumping in place. I don't hate this map, I still find it to be playable, it just feels small. You'll likely get stuck in the golf resort buildings for most of the match as infantry. Apparently, the out of bounds areas for choppers is also very low, which makes them mostly useless. When I go to filter out maps in my custom search, I always think about removing Eastwood from my rotation. I do end up keeping it on, as it is a new map and it can still be fun to play on depending on the mode and lobby you get thrown into. And just to balance out this section, there are some maps that I feel may end up as Battlefield classics, such as Mirak Valley and Manhattan Bridge. The development team just haven't found that balance yet between a large map with certain flags being more vehicle dependent, while other areas of the map are more infantry driven. They've been playing it safe so far, with the exception of Blackwell Fields. I hope we see more maps that are war-torn, have a fair amount of open space between objectives, and can provide that all-out warfare experience we come to expect from a Battlefield game. Before jumping into my third point, I want to give 2 honorable mentions. The first one being the netcode and desync issues. While most matches are being played at 60-tick servers, it's clear there's still some desync issues going on, even at 30 ping. Sometimes I'm dying around corners, but what's more frustrating than that is dying instantly from 5-shot kill weapons. As far as I know, the developers are working on improving the netcode with their next set of patches. This may be an ongoing issue, as I don't recall the netcode feeling this bad a few weeks ago. The second honorable mention goes to Portal Mode. Again, there are some things that we'll be doing, such as providing 60-tick servers to Portal Mode, but they also need to feature some creations that come from this mode. This is obviously going to take some time, but we can't leave it buried at the bottom of the menu. I would like to see a featured rotation with a unique Portal Mode experience at the top of the menu, even if it's a very casual party mode or a parkour course. This was done as well to some extent with 2042. I'm sure they'll do the same with Portal Mode over time in Battlefield 6. We'll just have to see how quickly they are with putting more eyes on the mode. As for my third concern with this game, it's the map brightness and soldier and gadget visibility. This is the only game where I have to lower the brightness levels in order to see what I'm looking at, whereas with every other game, I can increase the brightness just a little bit and be able to see darker areas better. First off, these maps have that brightness transition from someone going on the outside of a building looking in, which makes the inside area look pitch black, and vice versa, where if you're inside of a building and trying to look outside, it's blindingly bright. I kind of understand that this is to simulate your eyes adjusting to different brightness levels, but we don't really need that. Too many times I try to move, thinking I'm clear, only to get shot at by a gray shadow in a gray corner hiding behind a gray shield. It doesn't help that since I'm playing on a lower brightness, dark areas are even tougher to fight in. But I can't up the brightness because I'm blind anytime I'm outside of a building. The developers know this is an issue and they're working to resolve it. However, this is also a map-by-map basis. Some maps like Cairo are mostly fine outside of everything being the color of radioactive orange. Since the game isn't trying to light up and color every map exactly the same way, in order to give every map a little more personality, this also means they have to tackle the brightness for each individual map. That's a headache I'm glad I don't have to deal with, but it is making me play these maps differently since I can't see what's going on half the time. The second part of this is soldier visibility. Like I mentioned earlier, most soldiers end up looking great. There are some exceptions, primarily if you're running a bright one color skin like an all white snow camo or an all orange camo, but outside of that, if you are wearing more neutral colors, all I end up seeing is gray. There is a setting called Silvis, which helps by adding a little more brightness around an enemy in dark environments, which is helpful, but it doesn't change the fact that these characters are still mostly gray. I know there's a concern with flashier skins being put into the game and people not wanting to see that. While I do understand we all want the game to be gritty and grounded, it also doesn't need to look bland. Why are the maps so colorful, but then the soldiers are just devoid of all color? Some of that might be on me for having to play on a lower brightness setting. It just feels like soldiers should stick out from their colorful environment a little more than they do now. Otherwise, everyone is just going to find a dark corner or head glitch, drop down a shield, and go on a 10 kill streak because no one can actually see them. A lot of these gadgets don't stick out at all. I've had to stare down at motion sensors for a couple of seconds to make sure it is an enemy motion sensor. An overall lighting and contrast pass to soldiers and gadgets would really be appreciated. Maybe that is in the pipeline and we'll see some changes in the near future. But right now, it can be very rough to play in certain areas of certain maps because you just can't really see what's going on. I know there are some issues with the sound balance and footsteps not always being audible. That is getting reworked as well in the next patch. Again, Battlefield 6 is by no means a perfect Battlefield game, nor does it represent every feature Battlefield is known for. However, it's a very solid start to what should be a fan favorite game. But part of that does hinge on how they tackle vehicle gameplay, and if any maps within the next few months provide more balanced, all-out warfare experiences, where tanks aren't being blown up like piñatas, and choppers don't have to hover 15 feet above the ground because of a really low and small out-of-bounds perimeter. Let me know what your biggest concerns are for Battlefield 6, and also let me know what you enjoyed the most about the game so far in the comments below. Thanks for getting this far in the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more gaming discussions and gameplay. Until then, I am Mr. Rain, and happy Thanksgiving.